Welcome to the Phantom Zone.
And now, comics.
Hello, welcome to And Now Comics. I am Lou Gonzalez. Joining me once again is Connor Irving.
Wolverine is a Dapper Dan man.
And John Seiler.
Did you know that in the movie It, when Pennywise dances, it perfectly syncs up with Outcast Hey Ya?
Yeah. Is it kind of like Dark Side of the Moon?
Yeah.
And The Wizard of Oz? That's the new one.
But it's Pennywise dancing to Hey Ya.
Hey, if you actually listen to the lyrics of Hey Ya, it is a very heavy song.
Oh, yeah. Do we want to start a podcast where we just talk about Andre 3000 lyrics?
Oh, how dare you? You that is a Outcast song, so it's not just him, it's oh my god, I can't remember the guy's name.
I mean, technically, it is an Andre 3000 song because that was the speaker box Love Below. And the Love Below was like all the Andre 3000 stuff. And then the speaker box was like, oh my god, why am I blinking on his name?
I know. Oh my god, what the hell is his name?
Now,
I'm like looking it up right now.
Big Boy.
Big Boy, yes.
Yeah, Big Boy did the speaker box, which like it's okay. It's not like the Love Below is so good.
Well, there's a reason why we could not remember his name.
I mean, Big Boy is still a pretty integral part of like what makes Outkast.
Yeah, but Andre 3000 was definitely the more talented of the pair.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, well, this is not a music podcast. This is a comic book podcast. So we are going to start off, like usual, with some news. So why don't we start with this first one you threw in here, John?
Which one would that be?
Beat Staff.
Oh, yeah, so Comixology and Kodansha, like, and literally, like, this is like news that only I would care about. But Kodansha and Comixology announced that they're going to be releasing all of Drops of God, which is a manga about wine tasting and wine pouring. And I first heard about this comic because when Brian Lee O'Malley, writer, creator, artist of Scott Pilgrim, was talking about like stuff that he really loved, he was talking about Drops of God, and I picked it up, and it's like really cool. But it never fully came out in the United States. Of the books that did come out, I'm missing one volume, and it's going for like $90. So it's cool that this is coming out digitally, I guess. But it's it's like it's manga and doing a thing that you normally wouldn't read. You would think would be a manga. Like usually, like when people think of manga, they think of like Naruto or One Piece or something big and huge and stupid. Yeah. While like Drops of God is just, wine tasting.
All right. Well, that's definitely interesting. Like, it is kind of cool to see Comixology doing more. Like, I didn't even know that they really did manga stuff.
They do manga stuff, but I think this was the deal between Kodansha and Comixology.
That is cool. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have. I do like once in a while.
Literally, I was just like, yeah, I'm the only one that would. I'm like, even within the audience, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that cares.
Yeah, like I like a slice of life now and again, but it's not like end all be all for me.
Mm-hmm.
So Marvel is making Spider-Man the Hulk, so that's a thing.
Yeah. So I read the story, and it seems like it's just going to be a one-shot story. By
I'm sure it's more like. It's like one of those things that they just do. It's like, all right, what do we do? Let's make a different kind of Hulk for a minute.
Mm-hmm. But I'll like piggyback this story with a thing that I'm kind of getting tired about on the main Amazing Spider-Man book is that I feel like the last like 3 months of this book has all just been tie-ins to other books. Like the last 2 issues have been Absolute Carnage tie-ins. No, it's like 3. The last 3 issues have been amazing or Absolute Carnage tie-ins that I just do not care about. And now, like, I got the newest issue today, and it's a tie-in to 2099, which is also another book I just do not care about.
So, basically, there's been a month without the ongoing story?
Well, they released 2 books a month, so...
Okay, so it's been, like, 2 weeks.
No, it's been about 2 months.
Oh.
Because, like, the last 2 months have been tie-ins to other things.
Oh, yeah, I did my math backwards somehow.
Yeah. So and who knows how long it's 29 anything, but I didn't get to read it yet, but I picked up Amazing Mary Jane, and I honestly, it's like if I like that book enough, I might just drop Amazing Spider-Man and just read Mary Jane.
Yeah, which is kind of cool that they're doing. I did see that they are going to do a Daily Bugle comic.
Yeah,
Robbie is the star of it. Yeah, Robbie Robertson.
Yeah, who's been like a kind of a side character in the Amazing Spider-Man book, because it's like him and Peter and Boomerang have been like roommates.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah.
Robbie Robinson's not like 60 years old anymore?
Oh, it's his son.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah, you're right. I honestly, because Robbie, it's like Robert and Robbie.
Yeah, because Robbie was always called Robbie, but I guess it's like they just would change it. He was always like the number 2 guy in the Bugle. Like, even if you watch the old Raimi movies, he's like the guy that's like arguing pro Spider-Man to J. Jonah, which has always been his character. So yeah, so I actually think this book is following him and not the son.
Yeah, you're right. And that
which is kind of a cool idea, though, especially like in a day and age when like there's such scrutiny on media and stuff, to do a comic kind of based on a reporter, kind of like what DC's doing with Lois Lane and Jimmy, is not a bad idea.
And so it looks like the writer will be Matt Johnson, who wrote Hellblazer Special, Papa Midnight, Incognito, Living Day. This will be his first Marvel book, with art by Mac Chatter, who worked on Black Panther and the Crew.
Okay, that's cool. It's definitely something that's like interesting. I'm trying to see, like, the news is kind of all over the place. While we jump to, they are doing a bunch more books connected to Iron Man 2020. So there's one, Force Works, Rescue, Ironheart, Iron Age, Machine Man, and Weapon X, but like .exe.
I don't know why. It's like, unless I grew up in an age where like Iron Man 2020 was a book, like I have no idea why I should care about this.
I don't even remember Iron Man 2020 being a thing. They're like, that was a thing?
Yeah, it was like a mid 90s book.
Can we like not with the 90s stuff?
Like, right? Arno stuff.
Although strangely, the one thing kind of 90s I like is that I read issue 4 Batman White Knight. It's the Feeble Black Label book that is like the sequel to the first one, and it's like has to do with like this Earth's version of Azrael, and I actually really goddamn like it. And Alfred pulled I don't even know what you call it, like a pirate sword on what is definitely, oh my god, I can't believe I blanked on his name. The other half of Etrigan. What is his name?
Jason.
Jason. Yes. But it's interesting. But yeah, like, I don't know, 90s are a thing again, I guess, with the X-Men being awesome.
I mean, it's a nostalgia thing, and obviously the people who are writing books now would be people who had an affinity for those books then.
Most people kind of our age, maybe a little bit older than us.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe if I'm also reading Iron Man, I would care about Iron Man 2020 because they've been building up to it, but
I've never really cared for Iron Man, the comic book character, ever. Like, I don't know. I just have never done it.
Same. I tried Fraction, and Fractions is fine, but I kind of just don't want to read Tony.
Mm-hmm. So, let me see the next thing. Trying to like look at all my links. So, let's stick with Marvel, I guess, before we jump to DC, and then we'll jump back for the X-Men thing. But so they are announced that they are doing an exclusive podcast with Hawkeye, Black Widow, Wolverine, and Star-Lord with SiriusXM, Pandora, because they are one company now. And I guess this is going to be like a radio drama thing. I think, is it 4 separate shows?
Yeah.
Yes, it's and then there's a 5th series where they team up, which, how the hell does Star-Lord fit into that team?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think we all like kind of liked Wolverine: The Long Night and the other one.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the other one yet.
it's I think it's like at worst they're just kind of fine.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I like the idea of like more audio dramas. Like I wish it wasn't another Wolverine, and I don't know how exciting a Hawkeye.
see, I actually think that Star-Lord is the one that like I would not be interested in of the set. Like Hawkeye and Black Widow would at least be like kind of James Bondy ish,
I
which
think
could
like
work well.
I think that's also the thing is like they kind of both also exist in the same like
Espionage
genre.
world.
So it's like why have two espionage books? At least it's like you have Wolverine, which Wolverine's its own genre, I think at this point, and then Star Lord is like the sci-fi book, and then you just have two espionage books. Unless like honestly, it's like if the Hawkeye book is Clint and Kate, then it's like great, because
Mhm.
add Kate to that book or that thing, and you're already like doing way better.
Yeah, I definitely think it's an interesting idea. I am kind of surprised that no one else from any company is doing this. Like, let alone DC. Like, I don't know why anybody else is doing this. Like,
Pandora probably paid the money for it, and
I mean, like, you can like making a podcast costs nothing. Like, I'm surprised that like I don't know, Image or Dark Horse or whoever isn't doing this. Like, I would listen to a BPRD podcast.
Yeah, but I think it's like if would brands be willing to shop that idea around? Like I imagine
But you could
like
really produce it in house for nothing.
not for nothing, but I get what you're saying, and I don't
The
think
cost is
necessarily.
the cost is very minimal. Like you probably already have server space. It takes like very little to record, and you're already paying writers. So like, do you really need like a different? I guess you need like maybe someone that knows how to write this stuff specifically.
You also need a budget for voice talent, which does not come cheap. Because I imagine getting Thor and Oakenshield was not necessarily cheap for that Wolverine podcast.
Yeah, I guess, but I feel like there's a lot of like famousy nerds now that would do it just to do it, and you wouldn't have to pay them as much.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're doing something like a BPRD, which you can kind of lean into the absurd and have more like comedy centric people do it.
Sure, but I think it's like also at the end of the day, it's like they want to have these podcasts like they do animated features, and you don't see, and there's like plenty of really great talented voice actors on TV in anime or whatever, but they're not doing even something as small as like that abominable snowman movie from like earlier this year, or one of the three that came out, where like all of them had to have like an A-list voice casting, because like that's how studios see like the value of selling something, because you're not selling the anime picture, you're selling Hugh Jackman as the guy who's hanging around with this snowman.
Which is funny because I got confused for a second. I was like, wait, there were two of those movies this year. Because there's the Bigfoot kind of, which is the one I think you're talking about, which was like kind of looks like, was it Lycra?
There was
And then there's like the Yeti one, which is like a fully animated, maybe it's a DreamWorks?
There was a Abominable that's out in theaters now. And then
I
there's
feel like there were a couple different ones.
There was Missing Link in April,
Mm.
and then earlier this year there was Smallfoot, which was another snowman movie.
Oh yeah! Wow, I didn't even realize Smallfoot was 2019. Jesus Christ!
It's
Yeah.
That's why, like, I feel like,
Abominable.
how does that happen? Like, I get that it happens, but how do like three movies simultaneously ish of the same kind of thing happen in the same year?
Corporate espionage. Like, you think I'm joking, but it's like, I mean, there's a reason why, like, Katzenberg left Disney to go do DreamWorks, and the first thing that DreamWorks does, while, like, Pixar is making a Bug's Life, is they make ants, which is like a, basically a, shot the bow over to Disney.
Which I feel like, I think I've seen both, and I feel like I like Ants better, but that's because it's so weird.
I mean, you can't really go back to Ants since it stars Woody Allen.
Oh, well, yeah, I know. It stars Woody Allen, so. But hey, depending on who you're talking to.
Oh my god, but Bug's Life has Kevin Spacey.
Oh.
All the ants are bad.
Just really bad.
Well, actually, no, the ants are good in that movie. and the grasshopper dies because he gets eaten by a bird, a little baby bird.
Yeah.
So upswing.
So maybe we need to start a campaign for somebody to redub Kevin Spacey in Bugs Life. With who did it? Was it Plumber in that one movie?
Yeah, I feel so bad for like not to stick on Kevin Spacey, but like I felt so bad for Edgar Wright because like Baby Driver is so good, and then like
It happened at the exact same time.
yeah,
Dude, and that cast is crazy too.
Yeah,
because it's like it was. Oh my god, I can't remember that kid's name because that's kind of like his breakout role. And you have Jamie Foxx, John Hamm. Isn't like John Barenthal in that?
I mean, there's a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
Right. Ansel Elgort.
Ensign Elgort. Because I was getting confused with Solo, who has an equally super white name. Let's see here, and I gotta stop saying let us talk. All right, let's go to the two DC stories real quick, and then jump to X-Men, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and jump to the Bloodshot before X-Men. So the first one I think is really cool, which is they are doing a graphic novel for young readers. I guess this is in like the ink, because that's still a thing, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just go ahead. By the way, I just like saw the creative team on this book, and I was like kind of blown away by the artist.
Okay, yeah. So it's called "You Brought Me the Ocean" by creative team. So Alex Sanchez, who wrote Rainbow Boys, and Julie Morrow, who is the illustrator for Blue is the Warmest Color. So it is a book talking about. I'm going to assume, based on what this story is about, that it's Calderon Aqualad.
Yeah.
Who is the newer Aqualad, which he is the son of Black Manta, so therefore he is black, but he is half human, half Atlantean. He is the Aqualad that is in Young Justice, which they also, in this newest season, straight up, like, in the second half, also had him be gay. So this is specifically like a young adult book, like LGBTQ graphic novel, like kind of love story, and it's interesting that they're going here. The art looks goddamn fantastic, which his power set is kind of perfect for this style of book because he's was it like aquakinetic is the term?
Not sure.
He can like make water into shapes.
Cool.
And like weapons.
Yeah, so the artist is so have either of you ever heard of Blue is the Warmest Color?
I feel like I know it, but I never.
Yeah. So basically, it's a book that came out like 2010. When it came out, it was kind of like a really big LGBTQ book in a time where you didn't really see like a lot of big comics, be like kind of touted with having those themes. And yeah, it's also just like very. It's like a very porny, like porny and not in a bad way, but it's like
okay. They apparently made it into a movie too, so that was the first thing that came up when I googled it.
Yeah, which I hear mixed things about it. I have not seen the movie. I hear the movie, while like the creative team of the book is female and it's about two lesbians, and it's like there's like a big difference between like it's like if you read porn from the perspective of women about women, it's presented in a different way than it is when like men try and write porn. As someone who works in that industry, it's like it's very kind of obvious sometimes. But I don't know. I'm surprised sometimes. But regardless, the movie was directed by a male director, and people were they're like, the movie's very male gazy about the porn, and like
from my quick Google, I was like, oh, and I guess it's a French movie.
The comic is French. I don't know if the movie was, but that would probably make sense if it was. But yeah, I own the book. Like the book's not bad, and I'm kind of just like very surprised that this was the artist that DC ended up contacting to do a book like this, because like that's that's a pretty big name. And I assume like the writer is also pretty big.
Well, it says they are a Lambda award-winning writer.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't know what that
familiar
means.
with a lot of book awards, but yeah, yeah, this is like a really cool get, and like, this also is just like continuing with DC, just doing really great, young readers books, which, like that's how you grow a fan base.
Yeah, which I'm trying to think. I read some of the Catwoman one. It's not a genre that I really like. I had to read one for something like a class I'm doing, which I did the audiobook version of like a young adult book. So as a 32-year-old man, it's not made for me, so it's not interested, but like the art looks awesome. I'll definitely look at all the art for the book.
Yeah, like the Black Canary one looks cool, and the Harley Quinn one looks like a lot of fun. And they get like really good teams to be doing these books, so I mean, it's a lot better than what like Marvel's trying with. Like, did you hear? Like, this is a side note. Did you happen to hear that they're going to be collecting all the number ones for Dawn of X into one trade?
What? Really?
But
And they're charging $24 for it.
That's
like
bullshit.
one book off.
Like,
Because I think there's 6.
like it's like I'm already kind of like to collect all of Hoxpox is $60 or $50. Like, I feel like that's a little bit too expensive for like if you're trying to get new readers like to come and pick up a trade that collects everything that's basically like the big event for the future of X-Men. Like, I feel like a trade should be like of that size. It's collecting 12 issues should be $40. I think that's a fair price. But to make like all the trades into number ones is already like really stupid. Because like if I ran a store, I would never have bought those. Like, I would just wait for the actual trade to come out for each of the books. But at the same time, it's like if you're going to make a thing like that, why not make it like $10?
Yeah, get
like something
newbies
that's
in.
super cheap. It like you could hand it in, hand to people, to basically like here's the number ones for all the different books, and like have them go off on that point. But like charging $25, it's like I don't know any serious shop would ever like order that trade, and if they are, they're probably going out of business.
Yeah. So to kind of go back, I guess the only other big DC story is longtime DC Justice League writer, was big time writer on Batman. Scott Snyder says that he is leaving the Justice League book that he's been writing for I think a couple of years now. And so January will be his final issue, along with the artist George Jimenez. That'll be issue 39. It has been a very big story. It's very complicated and convoluted, so it's not really worth going into here. But it's this whole Year of the Villain thing as part of it, which has been interesting. But I guess it's a big deal, and it's interesting to see where Snyder will go next. He's kind of like the guy at DC, like I would say kind of like Hickman is over at Marvel right now. So this is his second major title, like cornerstone title at DC. So it'll be interesting to see what he jumps to next, or if he wants to just take a break.
I assume it's Batman.
Yeah.
No, somebody else has already taken over Batman.
Oh yeah.
Well, but
Tynion.
James Tynion's not. He's not the writer. Like, he's the villain. Like, James Tynion and Tony Daniel are not the ongoing Batman team. Like, they are there to basically issue 100, and then issue 100 is like the new team. That's why I wasn't too bent out of shape about Tony Daniel being the artist, even though I think like if you're gonna give someone 14 issues to Batman, like have someone like who's like a little bit more like kind of, I don't know, like revolutionary than Tony Daniel, who I feel just draws like a basic ass Batman book. But yeah, like they're supposed to be like a big team that's supposed to basically be like the next ushers of Batman.
It'd be interesting to see him go back, but like I kind of would rather have him do something new and see his takes on other stuff. Like, I loved his Batman, so.
Oh, I agree. But if it's okay, so it's like if you're going to get like someone big to replace, Tom King on Batman, and it's like you want like to have like this big marquee team for Batman. It's like you have Bendis, like look and see like who's in your wheelhouse right now. It's like you have Bendis, who I heard like based off rumors declined, and it also makes sense because he's also writing like 16 other books for DC right now, Now I know it's like if he would be able to like fit in Batman.
Yeah, and especially because all his stuff seems to be coming in on time, which is something that seems to be extremely difficult at DC.
Yeah, but like and I hope to God it's not Jeff Johns. I don't know if in any universe they would pick Jeff Johns or Jeff Johns
Well-
put himself into that role.
I think he's a little too busy currently.
Yeah, finish
As well.
Shazam or an issue of Doomsday Clock.
No.
But it's like, who else is like a big marquee writer that DC currently has in their bullpen that they could get the right Batman?
I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just like, I don't know. I wish, like, I kind of would like to see what he would do for other characters, just because that would be what I would want.
I mean, I would like to see like a Jody Hauser take over for Batman, which I think it's like if you want like a big headline, I think that's cool. Matt Fraction's doing a lot of stuff with DC now. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Matt Fraction on Batman.
I would love that.
But I don't know if Fraction is in the kind of time of his career that he wants to undertake like a big AAA book like that. But yeah, like, you know, I think there's like there's a lot of like really cool people there, and I think it'd be cool if they like were to call up someone instead of just having to like, you know, it's like I hope it's not like a Brian Azzarello, because I think that'd be like very lame. And
Well, he's doing Damned, I think, finished, right?
yeah.
But isn't he? I feel like he's doing something else.
He's doing that Birds of Prey book that used to be an ongoing, and then it used to be a 6-issue, and now it's just a one shot.
Oof.
You know, it's like you have Joshua Williamson, which I feel like is just like a name. I don't know how excited people would be about Joshua Williamson writing Batman. But yeah, like I think this would be like a really fun like betting odds thing. It's like who takes over for Batman.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're probably right that it is probably. Oh my god, it is probably Snyder, but I don't know. Boy can dream. So, I guess our other story here that I do think is interesting. I mostly want to talk about it because the goddamn image for it is awesome with Apocalypse. So, basically, yeah, he's like Apocalypse, like Mr. Fix It, but like also him, Magneto, like walking in the suit is like
He's
an
got the
Xavier.
Mr. X body.
So that's for X-Men number 4. So they basically what happened is some new kind of details came out about the December issues. So X-Men number 4, it says the Krakoan leaders attend an economic forum to show the humans what real power looks like. New Mutants, it's like when Armor and her team set off to bring their friends home, they thought it'd be an easy sell and a quick trip, and everything goes sideways. Trying to look at the one. Interesting thing, New Mutants number 4 has them with like the Shi'ar. And then, X-Men number 4, or I think 3 and 4 has an interesting title. It says, Cyclops storms the Savage Land. The most powerful heroes of the dominant species on the planet. The X-Men rise to protect the world against any threat. From a new foe in the Savage Land to an old nemesis surprising return. My first thought was like, oh, are they going to like... What are they going to be? I guess it's Sauron is like got to be part of it, and he's a mutant, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
has
so like
wings?
he's one of those guys we haven't seen, and there's been like a bunch of, with all the mutants running around, like I haven't seen any of those.
Yeah, Sauron just wants to turn people into dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. I wish I could turn people into dinosaurs.
Yeah. So I guess the next thing to talk about before we talk about, I don't know, like, how much time do we want to spend on Marauders? Like, we've read
hit
it.
the hits, I guess.
Yeah, like it's interesting. Like it kind of sets up stuff. I think it's pretty obvious that like what we were all saying that Kate is the new because you're not allowed to call her Kitty anymore. Is the Red Queen, and the kind of most interesting idea of it is that for whatever reason she cannot use the Krakoan gates, and I guess that, and that she is not even the. Storm was asked for the position, and Storm turned it down, and she doesn't like Emma, and somebody else probably was, and then Kitty was the third person. But yeah, her not being able to use the gates is kind of an interesting idea, because as far as we knew, all mutants, anyone Krakoa would like basically allow could use them, and all mutants were supposed to be able to use them. So why can't Kitty use it?
Well, we've already been told that Moira is already kind of subverting those rules. She doesn't want any precogs
Yes.
on Krakoa, so I believe this is kind of another thing where she's thinking ahead, like, who could sneak in here theoretically? Kate. Kate could. She could just walk in, and there's nothing that stops her. So
Yeah, I guess like that's right. I don't know. I feel like I hope it's more than that because
well, I think it's like a psychological thing. She can come to the island. Like she was at Krakoa, she brings Wolverine.
yeah, she just
like, the
she
snacks and
cannot use
everything.
she can't use the gates.
Yes, and I feel like that's kind of like discouraging her from coming to Krakoa, like a subtle thing of being like, we don't want you here, but you can come here, but like we're not going to make it easy for you to be here. It takes 6 days for her to get to it from San Diego.
Yeah, because it's in where it's always been. It's in like it's like by Australia or something like that, isn't it?
Sure, I don't know, man. That's kind of the biggest thing that you learn. That's why there's all that promo material with her with like the bandage on her nose and like the black eye.
Yeah, because she goes to walk through it and just like busts her face on it. Everyone's like,
It's a very good look, by the way.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Which I do think it's interesting. Like, like they kind of, I like the idea that this book is dealing with like the kind of social and political fallout of what the X-Men are doing. They're basically like, there would be places and countries that would be like, no, our people aren't leaving because Krakoa is basically amassing a monopoly on superhumans, like all of their powers. So, like we see Russia doing the thing, what they say, like Brazil, and then another like a made-up country.
What's it called? North Vonlin? Is that it? North Valnon. That's it. A very subtle North Korea nod there.
Yes, that's great. That's what it was. So like, yeah, it's interesting what they're doing. Like, I like what happened in Russia, and they like kind of beat the shit out of them. I did not realize that it is now. I think we may have talked about it once before. So, is it currently canon that Bobby Drake is out of the closet?
Yes.
Okay, because I know they had like younger Bobby Drake, but he definitely made like a comment. I was like, oh, like I haven't read X-Men in a while. I did not realize that they also made him. Which
there was like because there was that big issue where
it was like young Jean, right?
Young Iceman was like kind of forced out of the closet by young Jean, and there there was a kind of like a heart to heart with like young Iceman and old Iceman, where it's and Bobby kind of came to the conclusion that it's like he's it's like he's always kind of like felt that way, but it's like you keep up appearances, and people people were like, oh, like, he's like in his 30s, like how is he like coming out now? And I'm like, because people come out later in life all the time.
People come out when they're in their like 60s.
Like there are people who come out who have had previous relationships with women, and that's not to say that there's not indications for Bobby to have not been gay this entire time. Like there definitely have been like lines that have been dropped throughout his history that you could read them as that if you wanted to, and I think Bendis totally did, and then wrote it into the book. And I think it's like keeping up like the idea of the mutant metaphor. I think it's like kind of nice that they have like an original X-Men who is gay. I think I it's like I maybe have preferred him to be bi, because it is what it is, but it's it's not bad. Hey, we have Swinger Wolverine and Summers and Jean Grey
look,
now.
he makes even a comment that's like a mutant Gras, like instead of Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
And
Mutant
I do
Gras.
love this idea that like they're just all just still banging away.
Oh no, what's his face? Nightcrawler says it in the first one. Believe in me, mind fraud. On Krakoa, you will love and be loved. Like them some implications right there.
Yeah, so like I don't know. I like the idea that this book overall, like I like the team because it's Storm, Iceman. I'm trying to think who else was on. Oh, and then we got to see OG Pyro.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Do you know Pyro's like real name?
Nope.
I don't know. Is it like Australian McAustralian?
It's Saint John Allardyce.
I love That! Oh my god! That's so comic books!
But yeah, the team is Kate Pryde, or Storm, Iceman, Emma, Bishop, Pyro, Wolverine, and Lockheed.
Oh yeah, because we got that other side story with Bishop investigating the Chinese Taipei people, which is interesting that Marvel's poking at that.
I feel like that's just timing, you know? Like,
no, well, because China Taipei is not mainland China. It's like kind of like Taiwan, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the things that have been going on in that area are also just not particularly new. I think it's new to maybe the vast majority of people who maybe read comics.
Yeah. But Chinese Taipei, which they specifically reference, is Taiwan. And Taiwan is not mainland China, but they are also not independent, but they're kind of separate. It's very confusing, but it's kind of interesting that they're making them this as opposed to making just China, is kind of what I was getting at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting that they did that, but otherwise I think it was fine. I don't think it was necessarily as strong as X-Men. Do we know what is the next one?
X-Force.
Excalibur, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Excalibur, then New Mutants, then X-Force, then Fallen Angels.
Yeah, I kind of like, at this point it's going to take a lot for me to kind of care about Fallen Angels, but the other ones I'm like still very interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the Bishop story. It's interesting. So I don't know, it's pretty good. So anybody else have anything, or do we want to talk about Vin Diesel?
Are we talking Bloodshot?
Okay, you gotta give me like 2 minutes. I gotta watch that trailer.
All right, so we'll just kind of like.
That'll give me time to like. I gotta wash my hands real.
I'll just say like, so while you guys are doing that. So for those that don't know, Vin Diesel is doing a movie called Bloodshot. It is based on I'm trying to remember what comic company. Valiant Comics. He's kind of like Wolverine, and he was like a soldier. He got like kind of a thing, and they're like nanobots, so he can heal very quick.
Also, by the way, I want to make a side point here. I know it sounds very weird if I was just like, I need to go wash my hands. Out of context, I actually spilled something, and I had to like wipe it up, and continue.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I've never read, like, I'm not a big Valiant comic person. I don't know Bloodshot. Like, I know who he is. I never read the book. I've always just known he's, like, the white guy with the red circle on his chest.
Yeah, he, like, I haven't, like, also read a whole lot about him, but, I know that he has, like a cartoon manifestation of his, like, inner psyche named Bloodsquirt, who is
so kind of like Batmite.
Yeah, and so it was funny because Jeff Lemire was just writing Bloodshot maybe about a year ago, and the Bloodsquirt parts were drawn by Jeff Lemire. And I don't know if you guys know Jeff Lemire's like art.
No, I don't think I've ever seen it.
Like a lot of his career-owned stuff is all drawn by him. So it's like if you read, Sweet Tooth or Underwater Welder or that hockey book he did. But yeah, for the most like a lot of his art is just like, I really love it, but I could tell like if people don't like it because it's like very kind of ugly looking. But so he draws, so you have like this kind of traditional artwork, and then you see Bloodsquirt, and he's like obviously like someone who doesn't fit within this world, and I like that idea. But yeah, like I feel like Sony's kind of baking on this being, it's like, this is going to be like their kind of like Marvel. It's like, it's like they got like Venom and they got Spider-Man, but they don't own, it's like they own the rights, but they don't own those characters.
Bloodshot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think after what kind of happened between them and Marvel, they kind of realized that, I don't know, most people would kind of just side with like, just don't believe that they're going to put out, like, they just don't trust them with Spider-Man anymore in general.
Even though Spider-Verse is the best one.
Again, but that is a completely separate animal. It's also animated. But like, also looking at Venom, but like, I feel like there's a lot of Venom in this trailer. So this is, I'm trying. I should look at the cast. So we have.
I actually didn't think of Venom when I was watching that movie. I was thinking RoboCop.
I got a lot of
Oh.
RoboCop vibes, like Upgrade 2, which came out
It's
recently.
like that. He,
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about Upgrade, which is why I was thinking about Venom.
yeah,
Mhm.
Upgrade. Actually, you're right. Upgrade's like a better Venom.
Yes.
But yeah,
wow,
but it's
yeah.
like but yeah, it's like the whole idea that he's like a guy who's like a soldier who works for this company, and then he gets killed, and they bring him back to life. But now he's like a super soldier, but he's supposed to work for the company, but the company is doing insidious things, and yeah,
Yeah, it's got like a little bit of like Groundhog. Like I'm sure there's other movies that have done it, like the Groundhog's Day type thing, where they're twerking with his memory to like, which I feel like is a huge spoiler that they put in this first trailer.
People like I posted up the trailer in our Discord for my work, and there were people who were also saying that it's a spoiler, but I don't know. I just felt like that was just the hook of the movie.
I feel like you could have just shown him like killing the shit out of people, and like that would have been fine, and like regenerating.
I think so, but I think like also at the same time, like what would separate that from being like, you know, anything else really? I
guess, but you're right, because part of the thing, which was my initial reaction, was like, oh, here is like the first kind of real Deadpool knockoff. Was like the initial vibes I was getting.
Yeah,
with the kind of tone of the trailer, obviously the powers and like the revenging and, you know, all that stuff. It looks like I like the style, like of how his stuff works. I don't know how I like the look of the movie itself. Like it almost is like too clean.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like what I'm saying? Like
it's hyper produced.
Yeah, it
kind of called it.
Yeah, it looks like too polished. Like it looks like I don't know. It's like it's XXX, but with he can regenerate.
And he's like fighting cyborg people.
And I mean, like, I'm a sucker for a Vin Diesel action movie. Like, Chronicles of Riddick is not good, but it's kind of
at
fun
least you admit it.
And Riddick is also like kind of not great, but it's like fun for like when you're watching it. But you know, like those Fast movies are like a lot of fun with him. XXX is like a super guilty pleasure.
What's the thing is like he's good when he's good. And as much as I like what he does, like I love the stuff that he does with Guardians and Groot because it's so fucking weird. And I'm glad that he's doing his own thing because he's been trying to do. I can't. It was this and what was the other comic he was trying to do for a minute? I thought it was something at Marvel that they were in talks with.
I mean, he was trying to do a Black Bolt for a while.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's who it was. Because it was the goof that he was going to be one character where he's only the voice in Groot and one character where he doesn't talk. But like, I don't know, like everything I've heard from Fast and the Furious stuff is like he's kind of douchey now. Like he has this weird, because I don't know if you've heard, but like him and like the thing with him and The Rock is like neither of them could lose their fights was part of like their contracts. Like basically, Vin Diesel cannot lose a fight in any Fast and the Furious as part of his contract.
I mean, you gotta protect your spot.
I don't know. I feel like he's definitely bigger than this, but I feel like he's very close to becoming Steven Seagal in many ways.
I was thinking like Kevin Nash, because I was thinking of like wrestling, where it's like, oh, like I get to write like how my character happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, like in the Steven Seagal of like he's the action guy, he does a whole bunch of stuff, but he's also like, how old is Vin Diesel now? Like 50 something?
I don't think Vin Diesel's that old.
Quick Google.
He's 52.
Huh.
Well, fuck.
He doesn't look 52.
He's looking.
That's because they don't film him below the shoulders, really.
I mean, like he also looks just like he did in that Street Sharks ad.
Oh wow, that's an old one.
But like I don't know, like I thought like that trailer looked a lot of fun. It's like kind of a style of action movie you don't really kind of see anymore. Like, well,
it's a it's a B movie, but it's like it's like a $200 million B movie.
Oh, so I don't think that movie's $200 million.
Yeah, that's maybe like $100 million with advertising.
I don't know. There's a lot of CG in this.
Yeah, if I were to like guess, like I would think that movie is like 80 million to 100 million.
Let's see if they have the budget on IMDb.
Now I'm looking there. Was it like
I want you to know that when I go onto IMDb, the first thing it auto-populates with is Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, I think that movie is like, if I were to like guess, not
it's over $100 million. It's not just on his salary alone.
but it's not 200 million.
No, I was being like, I was exaggerating, but if it's like 130,
but I hope like this movie like does well for them, because I think like Valiant has like a lot of kind of interesting characters.
yeah, like everyone always says Ninjak, which again, like I've not read a lot of Valiant stuff, so I don't know them, but like I know all the characters' names.
Yeah,
like I know Exo Man of War.
Because like I mean, Ninjak is James Bond, but what if James Bond was also a ninja?
See, like and again, like I think that's another one of the arguments people have been talking about. Is like, why Bloodshot? I think it's only because of Vin Diesel like wanting to do this.
Oh yeah, of course.
But it's also funny that it feels like Guy Pearce is playing the exact same character from Iron Man 3.
Plus, I mean, it's like, you could do Exo Man of War, but Exo Man of War would basically just be like, oh, it's an Iron Man rip,
Yeah, because it was an Iron Man rip.
Yeah. But it's, you could do Shadow Man, but Shadow Man, it's like, I don't think you want to, like, start super dark with, like, Shadow Man. It's like, because that basically sets the precedent of, like, what this line is. And it's like you have like your books, like Shadow Man that's super dark, but then you also have like Faith, which is a pretty uplifting superhero book, or like Quam and Woody, that's like a pure comedy book. And I think
they got like Dr. Mirage, Time Walker, Hard Corpse. I also like not a lot of these. I think the only 3 you could start with is Bloodshot, Ninjak, or Exo Man of War, because no one else has any name recognition.
I think Faith does, with like at least comic people, because Faith, because of the Jody Hauser run, like got a lot of like recognition and some awards consideration stuff. But like I think Bloodshot's like probably, it's like if I were to like pick one, I think that's like probably like the easiest one to do, because it also has like kind of like a little bit of everything kind of wrapped into one. And then like after that you could do Ninjak, you could do Archer and Armstrong, which is like a pretty good buddy, film.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how tight they want to make all this, like this world. But yeah, like I don't know, like Bloodshot makes the most sense from a studio, because again, it's like it has to be an action thing. It's a pretty simple concept, and it'll have really good visual effects. And they got a star that wanted to do it. And like I don't know, it's just I don't know. I feel like it's like it feels like a weird movie. This movie, again, I feel like it's kind of like what happened with Venom. Like, this movie would make more sense if it came out in, like, 99 or 2002.
Yeah, like 2004 is this movie's, like, perfect period.
I mean, you say 90s, which is when Valiant was big.
But I guess maybe, like, this, like, how people compared Venom to, like Ghost Rider and stuff like that. I feel like this movie is, like, going to kind of fit into that same thing. Well, I'll just say, like, it can't be worse than Hellboy. So, like, that was a giant piece of shit. And it's, like, I hate that it was so bad. So, like, I don't know. Like, I hope it's good. I feel like that's the thing is, like, I'll criticize these things, but, like, I always hope they're all good. I don't want to watch shitty movies. I want to watch good movies. I hope it's a good movie.
Well, I'll say at least this looks like a lot of passion went into it. The trailer is overly goofy and it's very cheesy, but it doesn't seem like it's a cash-in, Like they're just trying to get the money from the name, because let's be honest, the name doesn't have a lot of... Yeah, exactly. The name doesn't have a lot of...
Well, the name is Vin Diesel. It's not Bloodshot.
Well, hopefully
that actually goes back to our, like, thing about voice acting, or, like, hiring, like, major talent for, like, something that's not... Because I mean, like, audio dramas, I don't think are like, light the world on fire. So it's like, how do you get people involved? Like, oh, this actor I like is doing like this audio drama. It's like, oh, this actor I like is doing this action movie. Oh, it's based off a comic.
Oh wow. Okay, I'm just reading through like the development and stuff. So
I mean, for what it's worth, it's going to be goofy, and you might hate me, but I kind of got into comics in my middle school age because I watched the movie Wanted, and then I found out it was a comic, and I was like, I want to read the comic.
You know what? That's exactly like, and I kind of like how good Bad Wanted is.
Yeah, totally. It's like
It is a
weirdly bad movie.
It is a movie that's like, oh, it's on FX. I'll sit here and watch it.
Yeah, that's
totally.
also based off of a bad comic.
I was
Yes.
just gonna say the comic is not very
Oh,
good.
the comic is not great, but it's a dumb action movie, which, yeah, you know what? That's a perfect way to describe it. But I don't know, like, this movie's not going to get me to go to the theater, but I will watch the shit out of it on demand or on Netflix.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, man. Remember that time you watched Wanted and they had the loom of destiny,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
like it's like
And
Well,
then
the
I gotta
guy,
read
the people that
goddamn
did
comic, and it's
the people
like,
that did
wait,
Wanted
what?
are the guy that like wrote and directed it. Wrote like two cool action horror movies that like Russian horror movies.
Cool.
The rat guy in
Watch?
Wanted.
Night Watch.
Yeah, Night Watch and Day Watch.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Yes. So the guy that's the rat guy in Wanted is the star of those movies.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yes.
that's an interesting one.
They're really interesting.
Weird horror. It's spooky month.
But yeah, can I just say, so almost like, I guess apparently in talks to play this, first, Jared Leto was in talks to play Bloodshot.
I don't
But
like
then
that.
Yeah.
No,
why
then they
would
went
you
to,
do that?
I'm guessing he turned it down so he could go play Morbius.
Joker, baby.
No, this is later. This is in July 2 years ago.
Oh, fuck.
So this is when he was going to sign on to do Morbius. And then like Michael Sheen was like announced at one point, which he is definitely not in this movie, I don't believe. So like it is, I don't know, they filmed this in South Africa and the Czech Republic and Budapest. So maybe this is just like $100 million movie. Maybe it's less.
Man, maybe I remember Budapest being very different then, because get it? It's because
Yes,
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. I was just letting it sit there.
Yeah, just wanted to let
You should have said it with more conviction. This is the first movie of a 5-picture deal Sony has with Valiant, and they intend to do a shared universe.
yeah.
Let's
Okay,
see.
so
They're doing it's 2 movies based on Harbinger, which will have a crossover titled Harbinger Warriors.
Harbinger. Oh, that.
Uh,
Go ahead. Where are the other ones?
oh, that's it. So it's like 2 Bloodshot films, 2 Harbinger films, and then a crossover.
Huh. I mean, like, I imagine that's where, like Harbinger has Zephyr, which is, like, Faith. And it wouldn't surprise me if, like, that's also, like, how you introduce, Exo or, Archer and Armstrong and stuff like that.
Oh, well, this is weird. Harbinger is going to be done by Paramount? Or no, it's distributed and released by... oh my god. This is one of those things where, like, the rights are super wonky. And I'm also now tired and starting to crash. So is there anything else?
Fair.
Was there any books anybody wanted to talk about that they've been reading besides what we already talked about?
I can talk about One Piece in my update. So I'm currently, I think, maybe a third of the way through Impel Down, which is the it's like one of the bigger arcs of the show. Basically, the setup is that the main character Luffy, his brother Ace, is been captured and been locked up and is going to be executed. And so Impel Down is like the big prison. It basically, this arc is a prison escape. And like no one's ever gotten in and no one's ever escaped. And so Luffy sneaks in with the help of like this woman named Boa Hancock, who's like one of the badass like pirates like in the book. And so what's really cool about the arc is it's like 6 levels, so he's going down like further and further. Each level is like built completely differently. And as he's going down, you're meeting like past characters who he's fought, who have been captured, who are in the prison, who are now like working all together to try and get out of Impel Down. So it's like, so that's like, kind of a funny thing that's like you're seeing like there was a character named Buggy the Clown who's like a pirate who has this ability that he could separate his body parts. And he was like a big villain in like the first like 25, 50 issue or chapters of the book. And we're like now, in chapters like 500. So it's like this character has not shown up really in a very long time. So it's like cool that you can see a callback with him. and one of the other characters that come back is this guy named Bon Clay, who
What? Bon Clay?
Bon Clay,
Oh, my
who
bad.
Bon Clay was like he was like the third in command of like, or not third in command, but like the third person in charge of this big villain group a couple, like maybe about like 6 arcs ago. But the cool thing about him is like he developed this really great friendship with Luffy that was just like so good and so pure. And Luffy meets up with Bon Clay again, and he's in prison, and he breaks him out, and it's just like I forgot like how fucking wonderful like this friendship is. And and Bon Clay like is in prison because he's also trying to find this character that he's been like searching for like so long, named Ivankov, who when they so Bon Clay is like a queer coded character, um and he is looking for this character named Embryo Ivankov, who basically looks like Dr. Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror. And Ivankov is like the leader of the Okama and the queen of Queer Island. Like this is and like he like Bon Clay's like giving this speech about how who Ivankov is, and it fucking blew me away. Cause like A, it's like Queer Island, and B, like it's like kind of also like very refreshing that like once you meet Ivankov, he like is like this big revolutionary who is like working to like help people in Impel Down and help them escape, and is also like fighting the world government. And it's like, oh, like there are trans characters and queer coded characters who are revolutionaries trying to take down the world government. And I'm here for this. I love it.
Yeah,
Um
cool.
and Ivankov's like, so like everyone has powers in the book. Um or like not everyone, but like certain people have powers in the book. And Ivankov, his power is that he can manipulate the hormones in people's bodies. So he can so like at one point like he hits Luffy um with like these like little like needles in his hands, and he basically just gives him like an adrenaline rush. He's like, yeah, you have about 3 days, and like after that, you're gonna like crash super badly, but you got energy now. Um, but like one of his other in command character, like who's like works with Ivankov, is this character who you see change, who's like gender fluid, and so when you first meet them, it's like this male character who picks like Luffy and Bon Clay up and like takes them to Ivankov, and then the next time you see them, it's like this female character who is like doing whatever. And so like throughout the fight you see them change genders like based off of like just whatever. And it's like, oh man, this is like so refreshing.
That's really cool.
Because I just watched like the newest episode of My Hero Academia, and the one trans character in the show like fucking exploded. So I'm like, well, at least One Piece is like pretty okay.
Oh, okay. I was confused for a second. I was like, oh, I actually did not realize until that episode that that character was trans.
Yeah. I don't think I've also would have gotten that because I listened to the dub today. And the dub for that character I think is like kind of like obviously it's like it's like a queer coded like it's like a fading voice kind of thing. It's like a male actor like trying to do a more effeminate voice, but like not doing like a shtick, you know. But I ended up finding out because like I also was just like reading about all the characters through the wiki, and like that's how I found out. But yeah, like that's what like that was like my big takeaway. I'm like, well, it's like it's cool that at least these characters in this series are like, and like I don't think it's necessarily like perfect, for One Piece, because I think there's like certain ways that people could misconstrue like a lot of the stuff within the series as being like a little tactless, like with how um how they're like portrayed, but I think it's like, you know, I
It's
think
also like it's coming from Japan and not America, so it's different.
I think it's like also coming from a guy who doesn't have, it's like wants to write like these type of characters. They're good guys. They're helping the character. They're not victims. It's like I think there's like a lot of good in that, and I'm like, oh, even though like there are times where Sanji, who's like a main character within the group, is very homophobic and like is like kind of an absolute detriment to like me liking that character at times, because there have been times where it's just like he's like super into women, like he fucking loves them to a point that it's like a really creepy, and like whenever he gets, you know, like there's like a trick for the comedic effect and he's just like ugh, and it's like kind of gross, but I'm like, oh well, like at least I know you can write that well, and thank you for this. But yeah,
All right.
that's me.
That's the One Piece update for this week.
Yeah, Connor, did you have anything or?
I started reading Berserk, but I'm not far enough in it to have like a really well-formed opinion. Besides, like it's gory and it's actually drawn pretty well. So I'll be interested to see where it goes from here. But other than that,
I just remembered like the ending and how fucking weird it is. But yeah, when you get there, we can talk about it and be like, oh,
I mean, it's still going. That's the thing is the manga's at like 359.
Wait, really? I did not know. I only watched the anime when I was like in middle school.
I know like a couple memes, like the main character spends like upwards of like 5 to 10 years on a boat in real time, because the guy never releases updates because he has a severe idol addiction. Other than that, yeah, I'm good.
All right, well, check it out. Don't forget to check out all the other shows. You got the main show, the After Darks. We're kind of doing we're not doing CW updates like really anymore on the reg. We are talking about Arrow and some of the other stuff. You also have Smallville Chronicles, which is still going, and the newer show 3 AM Files, where we talk about everything spooky and weird. And yeah, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to everything. And we will check you guys next time.
I love you.
Welcome to the Phantom Zone.
And now, comics.